So the first thing that we have to do when we embroider is we have to thread our needle. So you're going to be putting your thread through the hole, the eye of your needle, and it can be a little tricky. It might take you a few tries. You just need to, real careful, poke it through there, and once you get a little bit through, we're just going to grab it and pull it. Now if your string starts to get a little bit frayed, you can always trim it off with scissors to kind of make it a little bit nicer. You can twist it back so that it's a little bit nicer. Anything you need to do to get that through the eye of the needle. Now next, you are going to decide if you are going to be sewing with only one piece of thread or if you want to double it up. I think that a lot of you are going to want to double it up and sew with two because it does make your colors thicker and brighter when the thread is twice as thick. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. That means I need to line up the two ends of my thread so that they are right at the same place. So there we are. And then my needle is right in the middle. So I've got two pieces of thread the whole length down. Now with these two ends, I need to tie a knot so that when I'm embroidering, my thread doesn't come all the way through my fabric or my paper. Now there's a couple different ways that you can do this. The first way is you can wrap it around your finger and then you can put the end through the hole, just like this, and then pull it tight, and that creates a knot. Now another way, kind of a fancy way, that quilters and embroiderers like to tie knots is they do a trick where they wrap the thread around the needle. So what you do is you take your needle and you take the end of your thread and you hold them so that they're facing each other like this. Then you're going to kind of hold the end of your thread on the needle like so, okay? So just kind of pinch the thread and the needle together. And then you are going to take this hand and use it to wrap the thread around the needle 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And now you are going to kind of pinch it, pinch these twists that you made. So I'm kind of keeping there's my end there. I want to keep that and then just kind of move my fingers up so that I'm holding all of those twists that I made around the needle. And then while I'm holding it, I'm going to pull the needle through. So the needle is going through all those twists. Pull it through. And make sure it doesn't get tangled up down here. Pull it through, pull it through. And when you're done, it should form a knot underneath your fingers once you've pulled all of those twists close together, okay? So it might take you a little practice, but see if you like either of those ways to tie a knot. Once you have your needle threaded, the first stitch we're gonna learn is a satin stitch. Now a satin stitch is a type of stitch that you can do to fill in a large area, like a certain shape, or maybe you want to fill in a certain design on your clothes. So what I like to do first is draw a very light outline of the shape that I'm going to do. So let's say I want to do a triangle right here. So I'm just going to sketch that on very lightly because I don't want the pencil lines to show when I'm done. Now you're going to take your needle and you're always going to start from the back, okay? Because we want that knot to not be seen on the front. So we're going to poke it through on the back. And this first part's kind of tricky because you're going to have to kind of guess where your shape is since I obviously can't see it on the back. And when you think you've got it pretty close, you're just going to pull that needle all the way through until that knot catches on the back like that. Then, since the corner of my triangle is really, really small, I just need to go a very short distance to get to the edge of my shape for my first stitch. And then I'm going to pull that through. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the back again since I'm on the back. And once again, I'm sort of having to guess a little bit, but I kind of have a good guess because I can see where my knot is. I know my next stitch needs to go pretty much right next to this knot, but not so close that the two holes are touching because then we'll kind of destroy our paper and it will all fall apart. So I'm scooching my needle over a little bit to make my next hole. Pull it all the way through, and then I'm going to go back up to the top edge of my triangle, make my second hole, once again not too close to the one I just did, and then poke that through. And that stitch is a little bit longer, okay? So now, same thing, flip to the back, guess where my hole needs to go. I can make a pretty good guess, not too close to the last hole I made, and then pull it through. And I'm going to go up to the top for my next stitch. And as you can see, my triangle is starting to get filled in. And I'm just going to keep on going until the entire shape gets filled up. Now once you get to the end of your thread, you're going to have to secure it so that your stitches don't fall out. Now there are a couple different ways that we can problem solve this. The first way is, first I'm just going to cut off my needle and put it safely to the side so I don't lose it. And then I can tie a knot in this little piece if I've left a long enough piece of string. So I can just make a loop and then take that tail end and put it through the loop, and then kind of work with it so that that knot ends up right close to the paper. Just keep your finger on it, and then as you kind of pull, it should stay pretty close. Now that does take a little practice, and if that's getting a little frustrating for you, another really good problem-solving thing for this project, let's pretend I don't have a knot there, you can just take a little piece of tape and just tape down that end. Because guess what? No one's going to be able to see this on the front of our project, and they won't have any idea that you didn't tie a knot. So there's two ways to do it. You can either tie your knot, or you can use your tape. This stitch that we're going to learn is called a back stitch, and it's a way for you to make a continuous line design that goes all around your paper or your fabric. So we're going to kind of start on the back again, of course, so that our knot catches on the back. And you can start wherever you want. Some people might have a plan if you're using this to like spell out words or letters or something, or a very specific shape. Sometimes I like to just kind of do a free form thing and just kind of go where my needle takes me. So I'm going to start by putting my needle through on the back and then pulling it all the way through so that my knot catches on that back side. Now, once I'm on the front, I'm going to decide where I want this line design to go. I think I kind of want to fill in this area. So I'm going to take my first stitch. You want it to be, oh, I don't know, maybe about the width of your finger. It doesn't really matter that much. You don't want it too super long, but somewhere in here. And then poke it through. And then pull it, okay? So there's my first stitch. Now, when I come up on the back side, I'm going to try to make my stitch about the same length as my first one. Once again, we're not being like super exact or anything, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it. So that looks about the same distance. And now I'm going to poke it through. Pull it through on the front. Now, right now I have a giant space in between these two areas, and I wanted it to be a continuous line. So what you have to do once you come up on the front again is you actually go back through that last hole that we did. That's why it's called a back stitch. So we're going to go back to that last one and pull it through. So now my lines are connected. Now on the back side, you're going to go and decide where you want your next area to be. So let's see, I think we're going to go right here. And the thread on the back is going to look a little crazy. That's okay. Remember, the back is not what matters, the front is what matters. So now once again, I have this space that I need to fill in, so I'm going to go back to that last hole that I did and pull it through to connect my lines. We're kind of connecting the dots. And I think I'm going to go over here. Like I said, I'm just doing kind of a free form design. And then stitch back. And you just keep going until your design looks how you want. Maybe you're doing zigzag lines, maybe you're doing shapes. It's totally up to you. Go on the back, and then go back through your hole on the front. And I'm just going to keep on going until I've used all my thread. When you're done, don't forget to tie off your last thread on the back with either a knot or a piece of tape so that your stitches won't come undone. The next stitch we're going to learn is a tassel. Now, a tassel is just made up of some fairly short pieces of embroidery thread that kind of just hang off loosely on the front of your project. So the first thing that you're going to do that might be slightly tricky is you're actually going to get 2 colors of thread through your embroidery needle, just like this, okay? Now, the next step that I like to do is I like to tie a knot in the place where I want my tassel to start. So I'm going to make a knot, and I'm going to pull that knot down till it gets to about the length of my tassel, where I want that to be. So I want my tassel to be about that long-ish, so that's where I'm going to put my knot. Now, where I want my tassel to go, I've poked just a little hole, okay, so I know that it's going to line up with my other tassels. I'm going to go to the back and put my needle through. And then pull it until that knot catches on the back, like so. And then you can trim off your extra on the back. Okay. Save this thread for maybe more tassels. And then on the front, you're just going to trim it off as long as you want. If you want all your tassels to be the same length, or if you want them different lengths, it's totally up to you. And there you have your tassel.